Yeah.
We're good? All right.
You good? You listen?
Yes, we all appear to be good. We got Jeremy cut off just a little bit in Devin, but once we get started, everybody start leaning forward.
Jeremy, lean to the right a little bit more, and then you'll be good. Devin, lean to the right. Inside a little bit. Devin, you do the same. Y'all good. Y'all good. You know what you got in the picture? You got this table.
The muscle is pushing me out.
You can't push it back.
Jump in.
Again, thank you for being patient. I am Coach Rudy, and I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the rest of the men to invite everyone to the Brotherhood, Manhood, Fatherhood Conversation Series presents The Conversation Before the Conversation. Our rules of engagement are pretty simple, pretty easy. We just try not to talk over each other. We do realize that sometimes the conversation can get a little excitable. If I reach out to get the conversation back, I'm asking that you give it back to me. When we're talking about what we're talking about. We're not talking about what we're not talking about. We're talking in generalization, so we're talking about some but not all. The word that we use, borrowed from some other folks, is some but all. Some but not all. Some but all. Some but not all. I guess it's time now for introductions. To my far right, ladies and gentlemen, Devin, Mr. Haircut Man Smith, the owner and proprietor of Exclusive Cuts Barbershop, and he is the creator and producer of the Woodwall Show, which begins promptly today at 4 o'clock here at Mimi's Twisted Pop-Up. Then immediately to my right, we have JAESUNMUZIC on all platforms, J Sun Music. And then immediately to my left, we have Mr. Billy Harper, a.k.a. the American Gunner. All right. And then
what is the American Gunner?
The American Gunner. Okay. And then to his immediate left, we have returning, well, I don't know, the umpteenth time, ladies and gentlemen, friend of mine, a good man to know, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pernell Bush, mental health specialist. Therapist, I'm sorry.
What's the difference?
A specialist can be anyone with just like a certificate. I'm a therapist, so I got degrees behind me. So that's the difference. That's different.
I mean, whatever you say. I agree with you.
And then to my far left, the man I will give the floor. Jason. James.
I'm a specialist.
No points for that. No points.
I'm really the starter, so I'm like David Ruffin, so I'm mistake sensitive, extraordinary. I love it. I mean, I like to sit with the therapist, way with women.
Show over now.
I love it. Oh man. Okay. Our topic today is, what does it mean to be a man? But before we get into that topic, we got a few, we have a segment we call Damn, God Damn. Damn, God Damn. And I had so much that I could have fit in there, but I think I'm gonna go this direction.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. McDonald's, there's a McDonald's in this country that's completely ran by AI. There are no human employees at this McDonald's.
Allen Iverson got a McDonald's.
AI got a McDonald's.
I said that's very scary though. Think about it now. If things such as fast food, if AI is completely running it, eventually what are people doing for jobs? Right? You know, think about the stress level that's going to induce in our country. Like eventually, pretty much a lot of things will be ran by AI. There's going to be a lot of human beings without opportunity that wants to do it.
Exactly. So we've been saying here, because it was predicted, and I didn't predict this, but it was predicted by I apologize. I want to say the Roosevelt Institute. There was also a paper by Dr. Sandy Garrity out of Duke University, and there was another. I apologize, it's not coming to me. But what they said, and this was maybe about 5 years ago, that they predicted by 2020, this country was going to lose somewhere close to 76 million jobs due to artificial intelligence. And so, and we were having a conversation at that time, and with the women's panels, what I would ask the ladies is, how do you determine what a man is in terms of someone you want to be in a relationship with or a family? Mm-hmm. And they were naming all these things, but the things that they were naming were all surrounded by what kind of job he had. Mm-hmm. Right? So if artificial intelligence is taking over jobs, and we're predicted to lose 76 million jobs, right? So now how are you going to, what are the characteristics that you're now using to determine whether a man is suitable in terms of you being with him in a relationship? Now, we're not going to answer that one again today, but that was the question that we were pondering, because as you say, the stress level, it's a lot of work. But what the government had in mind or has in mind is to give everybody a welfare check. They actually started doing it. I want to say it's out in California. City's out in California. It's where the Diaz brothers are from. If anybody know where so it's that city. They were actually giving residents a monthly check, and I'm forgetting the amount. I want to say somewhere around $500 as part of the test market. But they were actually looking at giving everybody in this country, and I believe it was Bill Gates who said that the target was $1,000, but Bill Gates said at that time that the country's not ready for that yet. Now this is the conversation they were having like 5 years ago that we weren't, but we have slowly and surely, as Elon Musk has said a number of times now, in terms of as it relates to artificial intelligence, that it's too late. It's here. It ain't going nowhere. It ain't going nowhere. And I do my part, right? So as inconvenient as it is, when I have to go to Walmart to get some for my wife so she can make these wonderful, delicious desserts, these chocolate, etc. They have self-checkout everywhere pretty much now, right? Right? And people are using it, right? Right. So yeah, so I kind of have an attitude about it.
I like that.
They don't have artificial intelligence yet, right? So, but I will stand in line with one person that's working, because they have 50 registers for self-checkout, and they have one. I'll stand in that one long line to deal with that one person, because I am aware that if we don't use the people that are there, we're signing on to, or agreeing to participate in the process that are removing jobs from this country. So I stand in that long line. I always encourage you to stand in that long line. Quick story, I would say Circle K, and the young lady said, you can use this. I said, no, I'd rather wait for you so I can. She said, no, but you can use this. And I said, no, and then I explained it to her. If I use, the more of us who use self-checkout, the more people lose jobs. She said, oh, no, this is called self-checkout. This is called smart checkout. Okay. I said, okay.
Talk yourself out of the job.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to wait. And she said that she wasn't going to open the register because she was encouraged. They're encouraging her to encourage us to use the smart checkout. I said, okay, and I put everything back and I walked out. But that's that story. But yeah, so damn.
So this is kind of like, I think about that oftentimes too when I go into somewhere and it's not like having the same connection that you would have with a cashier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get to go and be a symbol of love and actually have interaction with somebody,
Right.
and be able to be a bright spot in somebody's day that day. But then again, if I think about some of the benefits to AI and how much time it frees up. So I go into a Circle K, I drop my stuff on the scale and it weighs it, and I check out and I'm gone.
Right.
So what that's done is it's given me 3 more minutes where I'm going next, or 4 more minutes where I'm going next, to spend 4 more minutes building a relationship with somebody in their home as a customer or wherever it might be that I'm going.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But
There's
that's
some benefits, but
that's the carrot, though. That's the carrot they dangle in front of you. Because like we all men, right? We all men. We all met a woman on the street say, "Hey, I think you're pretty. I'd like to take you out sometime."
right.
You'd be surprised how many men have never done that
Yes.
because of social media.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that.
Right.
So in theory, what you said is true. Yeah, it'll save you more time for more human interaction, but actually it saves you more time for more AI. And that'll save you more time for more AI, and it saves you more time to be with yourself. And if you're not used to being with yourself, then you have mental illness.
Right. Right.
So it's a lot. We've already been allowing these doors to open.
Right.
Because social media opens the first door, and then this opens the next door, this opens the next door, and then AI running the McDonald's opens the next door, self-checkout opens the door. And then all of a sudden now we are slaves to technology that we can't control.
Yeah.
But, you know, honestly, you know, we're the most connected, disconnected generation.
Correct.
Right? And that's a common theme here time and time again. You know, we're so connected, you know, where we get this false dopamine hit. Like, I see y'all on social media, I'm like, I don't see y'all every day, but I ain't see you in person about a year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So, but with all this connectivity that we have, and we now, you know, from a psychological standpoint, we're actually connected with people.
But it's an illusion. Yeah, it's an illusion.
I think it takes away a feeling. It takes away like the sensation of being in a room with a person.
Right.
Like you can't really duplicate that through an electronic. You know what I'm saying?
It absolutely does. Absolutely. The last time I seen him, it's like my girl was laughing because the way we reacted is like we haven't seen each other forever, but in reality we haven't.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like you don't think of it that way because you can talk to anybody in this room within a second. It's literally called instant messaging. But I can't like see how your face look when you smile, or if if that smile's not real because you're going through something.
Yeah.
Right.
There's also more than just seeing it on you though. Like like your frequency is there too.
Yeah.
So you can't really feel the person's vibe. You can't
Right.
feel the energy for real. So when they speak to you through a device, it's not the same as
Right.
when you speak in person because you can actually feel the person.
Right.
So it's taking away that. I think that's the important thing. Like you got to know they're taking away all the physical transaction among
Right.
humans. Yeah. So like if you allow that, yeah, you do end up cold. You do end up with all these new variants of like mental illness or like psychological impairments and things like that comes from this. Lack of social
It's the
interaction.
It's the thing that you can't quantify that really matter the most.
Yeah.
Like you can't quantify how much your wife loves you.
Yeah. Or a handshake.
Or a handshake.
Yeah.
Or a laugh. Or a smile.
Yeah. Right.
Or something that made you think about it later. You can't quantify it like this made me think 90% more than I would have thought about this. You can't quantify it, but it matters more. So like with AI, it's just like numbers, facts, and figures.
Yeah.
So like where from the surface, it looks like it all checks out. It looks legit, but like when you go like they doing AI with like musicians. Like there's a whole Tupac song that's made with 50 Cent lyrics. And it sounds like Tupac, but it don't feel like Tupac.
So the nigga really had something.
Yeah.
It was ahead of their time.
It was
Ahead of their time. Yo, man.
But the other thing that kind of irks me about the self-checkout is that why am I paying you to do the work?
Right.
Like, I mean, and I'm not talking about the people that I would deal with at the checkout. I mean, I'm paying Walmart to bag my own groceries. Why? Yeah, I'm getting, why would I definitely say
Yeah, there used to be jobs where you would hire a 15 or a 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid to go have their first job and their first human interaction.
Yeah.
You know, because
My first job was a bag boy.
yeah,
At a goodie.
you know, as a man of God, you know, without me and you and you and you, God has no form. He's untangible, unverifiable, and unidentifiable. So if I'm not there to shake somebody's hand, if I'm not there to feel their heart matter, if I can't pass off my frequencies to them, then where is our role as a man in society headed?
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
But I think Alabama should be able to have a McDonald's.
My take is this.
Say it again.
I think Alabama should be able to have a
right now,
McDonald's.
This is what I thought about. If robots can make that food, why is these have food?
Right? No. Seriously, because when you think about it, my grandmother's cooking was a delight and a joy because of the love that she had for her family and the meal that she was preparing for it. So you're going to lose that. That's another connection that you can't find about. Right.
Also carry frequency.
Right.
All that.
Right.
But if this is obviously the most lowest level of processed crap. If a robot can put it together in 5 minutes, so like, what are we doing for real? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I've seen that stuff.
That's a whole other conversation about how nutrition impact our overall, like return frequency, how we operate and work. You know, so that's a whole other conversation.
But that's why we kind of backwards. Where we like, look what AI is doing. It's like, really, AI has been doing this. It's just now we can see it. Like you're not supposed to have a watermelon that has no seeds in it.
Actually, and a burger that you can sit out and it doesn't expire for months. That's AI. That's literally AI. They genetically modified it to not go bad, to not be natural.
Yeah.
So it's biological AI.
And so it's basically like we're trading our connection with each other for convenience.
And it's the key word is con. It's a con.
I think it can be useful though. I think the way they present it and the way that they say, hey, use it like this. I think that's where the flaw is.
Right.
Because I mean, they definitely could use it to like maximize so that we can be together with that. Because I think if we go back far enough, right, we'll see like, man, the human body's not really made to work the way they like work us tirelessly until you have no energy, then you're replaced. Right. So ideally, AI could solve that, and then we could be home with each other for real and have everything. But they use it more to like replace everything you have and keep you like just locked to a screen.
But so man, everything. One of my favorite movies growing up is Universal Soldier. Jus'Black Van Damme.
Yeah.
So Universal Soldier, that's when they started trying to regenerate the remains of dead soldiers. So now they go back out instead of actual bodies.
As
a Marine, I tell people all the time, man, if we actually did something like that, I'll be really scared out of my mind.
You're not a Universal Soldier?
They already are doing that. They already have these robots now. You can hit them with a battering ram. They have a pistol in their hand, a rifle in their hand. They're doing backflips and all kinds of stuff.
I seen that.
They got dogs. They're arming like the dogs.
So
it's not all bad. They're gonna have AI like where it's like a woman with a woman body, but she's like this. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Terrence Wilson chimed in. Loving the conversation.
Oh, okay, great. Damn, Pastor. Pastor Deitrick Haddon and First Lady were dancing at an event.
Oh, that was so dumb.
And she bent over and he was behind this. You see the video?
Their husband and mom, they husband and wife.
Yeah,
listen, at the end of the day, I appreciate them being human in front of their congregation and always put off this pristine image by themselves, because that becomes heavy. That's why we hear a lot of the times people in the faith-based world, that they always trying to present themselves as something, and then behind closed door they're about. Right? So I appreciate them being human in that moment.
Okay, so
Yeah, man,
His wife, cool. It could be his girlfriend.
It was like this. It was like
It could be his
like
wife,
the
his
club.
girlfriend.
It was like at the club. Yeah, it was like that. Like they were dancing.
Hey, his 50th birthday party.
She bit it over. She
My wife better than that.
Back on the back on head. You know, but to me, I really think it was blown out of proportion. And to me, it shows that they are human beings. No one out here is perfect, and that's the issue now. A lot of times we get upset when we feel like there are pastors and individuals that carry themselves to a level that they almost are out of touch with people. But then we, as the congregation, we judge them if they don't. Right?
Yeah. A concern. So what about this? Now, I get bad on this, but I refer to Jason and to my wife when I'm going to say something about the Bible. But there is a passage in there about the bedroom not being defiled, right? The bedroom's undefiled.
What about the dance floor?
So could that be allowing the world to see the inner workings of your intimate relationship? No, you don't think so?
Not at all. I think what we are in this time of days, I think we're trying to dumb ourselves down in society. We are an intellectual society. Understand the difference between what they're doing as they're having fun on the dance floor is completely different what they do behind closed doors in their bedroom.
Okay, so let me add this one little piece. I just want to poke the other. So I'm trying to imagine when I was in the church all the time. I'm trying to imagine the first lady bent over at a party in front of the pastor. You see this? You know, I'm just like, I'm not.
But that's it.
That's how we grew up.
But you know how corrupt that was back then, like where they was pretending to be something they wasn't. I prefer my pastor to have affection for his wife in the same way I have affection for my wife. I think sometimes like we have this like disconnect from a pastor and the people that he's supposed to be basically in the trenches with.
So what you're saying is the pastor and the first lady have a right to be human beings.
Right. That's all.
Yes.
I would say that we're all spiritual beings just having a human experience. You know what I'm saying?
Like it twerks sometimes. Right. And she do, and if she don't, then they might not have it.
So whenever I see something like that, if I was going to be in a situation like that, I would kind of be like, well, does this ideal of what I'm doing here line up with my ideal of what I think God would be in this situation?
Right. So that's something that they got to do on the individual level. What we're trying to do is place judgment on the society level. And in the day, that's one of the passages about we're not the ones to place judgment.
Right.
And if God had a woman, his woman would be.
What the Bible says? The Bible says you got the thing in your eye, man. It's in your eye. Don't be over here looking at what I got going on. You got the thing in your eye.
You mind your own business.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
You mind your own business.
Get the mold out of your eye, right? Before you fight. Just not less you be also judge.
There you go.
The whole say sweep on your front porch.
Yeah. This is my wife.
Okay.
But I mean,
Now, Jason, you brought up something. I think last conversation, be ye in the world but not of the world. Also, when you're no, I can say David danced. Okay. David danced. But let me just say this. When you are, let me say this. When you are a new believer, a new Christian, and you are looking to your pastor, first lady for guidance, you can fall if they're not careful in what they present to you. So that is that is. And it's possible, but you are looking to them for guidance.
I think that's the problem.
You're looking,
I think that's the problem.
I'm not saying.
But I
get what she's saying you don't have your own compass yet. You don't have your own foundation. So it's like a child.
But the Bible is based on having your own compass.
Right.
That's what the Bible is. The Bible is.
What she said, new. I get what she said. You're new. So right now, you're observing, you're learning, and so these people have a title and have been considered by this whole congregation to be morally upright, righteous people that we can follow from. So if I do understand, it's like if your child see you doing drinking and driving, and they grow up and they drinking and driving at a time where they were malleable. This is what they saw. From a person that they might have idolized in an immature mind.
I dig it though. I dig it.
That's realistic.
But at the same time though, if your walk with God is behind someone else, then you are.
She said it's new. But she said it's new.
Even if they are new, it still doesn't change the fact that that's what it is. It's just that and that's what you're pointing out.
Okay, I'm pointing that out.
Just not understand don't mean I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I ain't saying that it shouldn't dance. I'm just saying I understand what she's saying. We all have been at a place where we're looking to see what other people are doing as we learn.
So I guess like a question. Yes, we talking about the Bible. We talking about people who lost Bible in home conference. You know, how many people that you know with the word sphere of Nexus actually just study the Bible? A lot of times I don't hear about Bible studies. I don't hear people taking time out to read the Bible.
A lot of people are parents. What you see now, people are parenting what you hear because the person want to read on their own.
And that's
the Bible is
the issue right
there.
So
that's not really the definition.
That's a dope argument though.
But it's something that a lot of people
yeah. But the main thing I'm trying to get us to is that we have to get to a place of our own self-awareness, self-understanding, and before we go for the guidance of others. Sometimes that you get that image of people that I want to be like them. Well, let me start and have understand the word myself, right? And that'll help me have a guy like me if they are Christian. My thing is, you Christian, but you either one. I'm always saying they don't get knowledge themselves. I'm gonna tell you what I know. I'm gonna tell you to the best of my insight how my comprehension was. I always would encourage you to go find out for yourself.
See, I had a she said be in the world but not of the world. But there's another spot in the Bible that says in the world as he is in the world. And so whenever I come to the end of one road and I find spirituality, Christianity, whatever, it's very important for me to find a connection with God quickly, because if I follow somebody that's human, they're always going to fail me. Right. But if I follow the Father, he will never fail me. Right. So as soon as I start seeking these answers for myself and not being a dependent child in the world anymore, now I can walk on my own. Seek ye first. Seek ye first. Right?
That's a bar.
What's the next? I know we don't from the Bible.
When I was a child, when I was a child, I stank as a child. When I became a man, I put on child stank. Okay.
I got some. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. God damn, boy.
Walmart again.
Walmart settles lawsuit for dead peasant insurance. Walmart made $9.6 million collecting off of employees who died while working.
Oh wow! You said million or billion?
Everybody over here going.
I got million. It might be a billion, but I read said million.
So they just lawsuit regarding insurance from their dead employees.
Yes.
Benefits didn't get spread amongst the
employees, right?
Like it's supposed to.
No, this is
No.
that they put on.
I mean, that's
I didn't get that. I didn't get that
Nah, I think the way the article went, like they were like tricking them into signing these like insurance policies, like in their like application process, and then these people were working, and then when they died, Walmart's like, oh, cha-ching. You know what I'm saying?
It is fully disclosed.
Nah, people or their family weren't aware, man. They were just profiting off their debt.
Because I was going back to the city. They do have where like when you die, you can reap a benefit reward for your family, like $100 grand, whatever like that. So if it's something where they not reaping anything, that's different. But you know, it is what it is.
That's the other thing.
Walmart was like a beneficiary.
That's the issue. So
We can't Walmart for the people.
no.
Nobody takes
The opposition to small business, man. They're knocking a lot of mom and pops out of the box completely.
And they started as a
They'll take over like a whole town, man, and then close down.
So when these
Then
corporations,
everybody in that town is done.
these corporations are treating their employees worse and worse and worse, hey, not keeping up with inflation. So the value of what a man can bring home for his family keeps getting reduced and reduced and reduced, so his self-worth feels lower and lower and lower and lower.
So, you know, and I'm glad, and Bill, I'm glad you bring the conversation back around to, you know, what values that men have, right? And that's something I talk to a lot of my men about, is learning how to look at yourself outside of what you provide for your family financially, right? Because it can be very detrimental to you, like, especially if you have this vision of how much you want to provide for your family, and if you're not hitting that, now you have this this internal balance, right? So often I talk to my men about what other values you bring outside your finances, right? And when we start to look at that's monetary. You know, society make it easy to me. Monetary is easy. It's easy. So we think, okay, if I buy my son this good, or maybe give my family this house good. What have you learned? What are you able to do?
It helps to know some of the numbers. The numbers are like, and I want to say this, because we have some business in the room, but we primarily talk about issues from a black man's perspective, primarily. So the average black man went somewhere around $47,000, right? Other groups make, the average man makes somewhere around $54,000, right? So being that we're tying provision as a characteristic to determine whether or not a man is good enough or not, we're not able to do that anyway, right? But we're using it gets used as a standard. We use it as, women are using that as a standard to measure a man, and men are using that as a standard to measure men.
Yeah. So,
right? So we're all participating in a system that has a narrative that you're not good enough.
But you know, we participate in this system, I guess. We really do. But once again, we're just talking about the Bible, you know. When you're a child, you understand as a child, but once you become a man, you put child behind. Right. I think for us, we have to understand the different industries that we're going into, right? And set a realistic expectation. Like, if I meet a woman or anybody in my life, you're like, well, how much you make? Well, I can tell you what I'm projecting to make by the time 20 years in the field that I'm in. Right. You know what I mean? So, me and yourself feeling from as a licensed psychotherapist, you know, majority of the time, 95,000 is where you can make at the top end of your 20 years, right? You know what I mean? It won't be no different than that, you know what I mean? But sincerely, I think us have a realistic conversation, right? So if I'm able to, just be honest, for example, a woman come to me, I don't mind how to slow that, Charlie. Let's have a slow when we gonna get it. Right. I'm just gonna say some realistic expectation for you. So if you come to me, well, I want your lifestyle, I want to be jet set, man, you can please move to the left. And I'm gonna provide that for you. I'm gonna do the very best I can for my children and for women in my life, right? And I'm not gonna allow the standards of society to be projected upon me and my values, man.
Right, but you do realize that everybody ain't there. I mean, you know, in terms of how, in terms of how we see ourselves. I mean, So
that's our role as a man, is to get other men to realize that. You know, it's to bring men who don't have that solution, that perspective. They just have a different spiritual lens on what it means to be a man. Is it something that I provide in my home? Am I providing this stuff out of intellect so that my wife's happy with me? Or am I providing it out of love from my heart because I love my family?
And all those sides, like, context matters. So, like, 15 years ago, 95 grand is a lot. Now, you need 70 to just be like normal with the family of 4.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not the same. Like the money I make now, if I was making it back then, I would be a completely different person because I'd be bald. Right now, I'm just making it.
That's real. I'm with it, Jeremy.
Now I have to be faithful and a good person. But back then,
Somebody who gets Jeremy on this hill, man.
yeah, as the Reverend Mike Jones would say, back then.
Now I'm hot, y'all.
Hey, can I get it? Can I get it?
But you know, man, so I think it's a responsibility for us as men, as the next generation coming up. How can we help them set a foundation and building into manhood, right? So I always start with a couple of questions like, what are the top 5 values that you want to make sure you have for yourself? Right? Because now we don't even talk about values and things like that anymore, right? Because without values, what is your guiding light? Right? Your value may be different than my values, but I know with my values, this is who I am, this is my foundation of man, that's what I'm building on. Right? So that's one surface of it. I'm saying, how can we help guide the next generation to where they don't get so caught up in, I got all this money, this is what I'm doing now. But it's more about this. That money is not going to solve everything.
it's not, but
Another thing I tell people is
the rewards are there. The rewards are there to, the system rewards that mindset.
Yep.
So now you're trying to fight. I mean, we know how it is. Like when you're trying to talk to a young kid who participated in some illegal activity, but he's making more money than you. To get him to stop doing that when what he's doing looks like he's winning.
Yeah.
Even though he's not, it just looks like it's an illusion. It looks like he's winning.
Yeah.
And we all pretty much know that time will pass and that'll, right? So how do communicating that message?
So I know what to talk to men about, man. I said we got to stop building our perception off what I call the 3 fragile P's. So the 3 fragile P's is how we provide, protect, and procreate, right? The reason I call it the 3 fragile P's because a lot of times, a lot of the conversations I'm having with men, they feel like, oh man, I make money, I'm a man now. I got kids, I'm a man now. Right. Oh man, I can handle my own, I'm a man now.
Right.
But then when one of those are off, they start to lose their self-perception of self.
Right.
And that's why I call it the 3 fragile P's. Because what are you outside of those things?
It's like a 3-legged stool.
Right.
All the way to the stool.
Go all the way. Right. So what are you outside of that, right? And a lot of times we can't answer that. Like, if the first thing that you ask yourself is like, who are you? Well, if I introduce myself, I'm a mental health therapist. But who are you?
Yeah.
Right? Who
I
are you
was just
outside
going to talk about that earlier, because if you ask an older man that's in his, let's say 70, how are you? What's your name? And my dad over here. And you ask him, tell me a little bit about yourself. They immediately go to what they did for a living.
Right.
And so that's what he thinks in his mind defines him as a man.
Right.
Is what kind of career he has.
Right.
And that's just an illusion. It's not an illusion. That's a perception of himself.
Right. And
God's work is emotion.
And something Jeremy said on the show once, and I say it a lot now. That was, just because you believe it's true doesn't mean it's true, but if you believe it's true, it is true.
Amen.
Right? So
hold on. We gotta rewind that. Say that one more time.
Just you can use that in your practice.
Say now, just because you believe, if you believe it's true, just because you believe it's true doesn't mean it is true. But if you believe it's true, it is true.
Feelings are not facts.
Right? Right. So mindset is everything when it comes, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about mindset. But I think another thing that's kind of gotten lost in terms of having a connection is we don't seem to have a rites of passage into manhood or into womanhood that's healthy.
We don't. The Western culture, we do not have a rite of passage across the board. You know what I mean? A lot of times they say, oh, you're 18, you're grown now. And I tell people all the time, stop telling your kids that they're grown at 18.
It's only 1 day.
At 18, you are a legal adult. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But you are still growing, right? But, you know, right, until the day you are still growing, because you get a lot of people that get this mindset, when I'm 18, I'm grown. They be like, they know everything. I'm like, no, you're an illegal adult. Yeah, we're still growing, but there is no rite of passage. That's why a lot of times we do look at the things that we have as that identifier or indicator that we are men now. So if I got kids and I'm 18, I'm a man. Well, if I got a little job, make a little money, I'm a man.
Right. I thought I knew everything when I was 18, and my dad gave me a scar.
Hold on, Bill. Hey, Bill, I said one more time. What happened?
I thought I was a man when I was 18, and my dad gave me a scar on my eye.
Hey, find out real quick. What you want to say? You about to say something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was watching. So this is kind of preparation for this conversation, this topic. What does it mean to be a man, right? So this gentleman was talking. He said, "Man, I travel all around the world." As a pastor, he said, "I travel all around the world, and I've been in another country where I've seen 16-year-old boys, 16-year-old men. They were 16 years old, but they were men, right?" But he said, "But then I came back to this country, and I see 35-year-old boys." Yeah. Right, so we just I thought I'm going to forget the phrase, so I'm not even going to try it. So basically, when you create a soft society, you create a soft man. Right, and then a soft man, and when I say man, that was a phrase, but we're talking about people. Right. Creates a hard, a difficult society to exist in, because we're going to create a soft society. Right, and then but there's a cycle that kind of happens, because now, in a soft society, hard, it's going to, you go through this circle where you're going to go from being soft to being hard to being soft to being hard, soft to being hard. That's just kind of a thing, and that's the balance. But the balance can be that it's not so hard and not so soft. If we just formulate things in terms of, I think we can use, I like the phrase, using the idea of a rites of passage to move us all more toward the middle for a more balanced situation, so that when something quote unquote bad happens, it's not as bad used to be. Not extreme, right?
I think in general, like, it seems to be like a pattern that happens in society in general. Me and my buddy Mark talk about this all the time. Man can walk with God, and man can fall away from God. And then man cries out to God, God restores man, man walks with God, man falls away from God, man cries out to God. And so right now, what might be happening, what I think is happening is that's exactly what's going on. We're falling away from God in society. And then something's gonna happen to restore mankind to fully functioning positions again.
Somebody tells you to build an ark. Well, you don't.
So about the part that is soft.
Yes.
Would you say soft basically just mean irresponsible? When I say irresponsible, I'm not talking about the society or yourself. Right. You're irresponsible if you're not taking care of your things. If you're not understanding the society.
I think it's very difficult to give like one blanket thing, right? Because that term can go to a lot of things that doesn't make up a complete individual, right? A lot of times we can see the lack in certain areas. And that's why, when I work with my men and my young men, I always have them do this sheet. And you guys played Madden back in the day, right? Madden. So back on Madden, when you create a play, you got 0 to 99, right? So on this sheet, I have my men kind of rate themselves in different areas. Where do you think you are from a scale of 1 to 10, right? Spiritual, where are you? From the way that your values, where are you? Where are you socially? Where are you emotionally? And when they get to write it out, people feel like, hey man, emotionally, I got some struggles there. But then I realize every time one of my kids or my old lady do something, I'm jumping that out, right? Or socially, like, man, you know what? I'm realizing socially, I'm not really engaged like I once was. I'm now seeing this, so I got to figure out where it is I'm lacking at. Right? So when they start to see what they think they need to improve in, now we're able to, as men, we like solutions. Like, all right, this is what I see I got more weaknesses on. How can I get better or improve these areas? Right? But when it comes to having weak men, I guess being weak is everybody gonna have their different definition on that. Like in today's society, somebody might say you're a weak man if you cannot provide to a certain level. Right? Does that make you weak? Right?
But I think that's the problem, though. It's because it's like when if somebody say I want a burger, you don't offer them the best burger, you offer them with the best advertising. So if you be like, hey, I want a burger, they be like, hey, there's a McDonald's down the street, go, well, it's unless you know better. Then you say, well, there's actually a gourmet burger shop down in the park. I can show you. So like if you don't know better, then you're gonna be it's gonna be based on what's conditioning or what's advertised. Right. So it's gonna be.
So what's advertised right now is man. What's the advertised?
So what's advertised for man is like it's quote unquote providing, but it's a misunderstanding of what providing means.
It's limited.
Right. They think like providing is only paying all the bills, but it's based on a template that's where the bills were not as significant as the bills are now. So like when providing actually means a lot. Providing means an adverse perspective on your perspective. That's also providing. So like and that requires balance. So if your perspective if your perspective comes from an emotional standpoint, which leads more into your feminine, then you also need a logistical standpoint that projects through my masculine, and that's not guidance, but it's balance. It's right, providing balance. So when you say you want a provider, you really want somebody who provides balance, but in that case, you have to also provide balance.
So, but you know what? And Coach, let me open your head. When I keep hearing all this talk about providing and not living up to the expectations, man, you know how that does push a lot of men. Right now, men have the highest rate of completing suicide than any other demographic. Right? We are at the highest rate of completing suicide. Men also at the highest rate when it comes to substance use, when they start to feel as if they're not a complete human being. Right. So this conversation around you being a man if you can't provide, you're not being a good man if you can't provide to a certain level. How do you think that's contributing to the completion of suicide rates or the ingesting of all the substances that just trying to escape your reality?
I think it's a major driving point.
Yeah,
it's got to be, because I mean, like with society focused on like just material providing at the moment to measure a man's value, like that makes it to where like you can't like there's no space for a man to really like release his feelings, you know. So then you revert to that. So now everybody wants to hear what you logically think and what you know your plan, but nobody's asking you how you feel, like as you go through it. So then now without an outlet, now it drives to this mental illness, suicide, all of that, because men don't usually have an outlet to like vent their feelings. People just want to hear what you think. You start talking about what you feel, what we just talked about, they call you soft, you're feminine, or they don't need you. Right?
Because that's like a couple conversations we had when we were talking. There was women here that were talking about child support, and I don't think people realize on the other side, like women or people who don't have children or don't experience it, they don't know how it feels to not be able to, at the moment, financially provide in the way they need to provide, and how damaging that is to a man's mental, to his physical, and to just how he feels emotionally.
Write this down for a part 2 conversation. Talk about getting back to creating a core nuclear family. So that'll be one way to address that. But you know,
that's what we based on that idea. We based on the idea of like the families. So like everything leads back to doing the work of yourself and the family. Every issue that we're discussing right now can be quelled and be defeated if we have strong family and we have strong self-accountability. That's it.
So, self-accountability.
Yeah.
Say that one time. Say that out loud one time.
Self-accountability. I'm also a therapist.
I'm down with you, Doc. I'm down with you. But you know what? Real quick before we move on from that, it's talking about substance, right? So right now, one of the substances I keep running into is particularly for very young men that come into my office, and it's marijuana. You know, and now I'm not against it, anything on that form of shape fashion, but I do feel like it is heavily overused. A lot of times, I have a lot of young people who utilizing this marijuana and utilizing weed to just escape away from everything. Now I say, you know, I had one young man come off, he came to high as hell, still high. He's like, Mr. Bush, man, I had to smoke so I could talk. So I'm like, you don't see the issue with that?
What was he smoking? What was the strand?
I mean, I don't know what strand it was.
I'm asking for a friend.
I'll tell you what it was. So, but the thing is, you know, but he said that was his 4th time smoking that day. It's 4 o'clock. Right. Now it's 4 times smoking that day. I say, so you don't think that this, oh man, it ain't like, you know, no deal. And I said, man, but what if I told you in order for me to come to work day, I had to take 5 shots of vodka.
I'm relying on that.
I'm relying on that substance. You know, but right now there's a very different viewpoint from this next generation about how weed and marijuana is actually impacting. When I heard it ain't doing nothing, I said, but you don't understand that you are chemically, shifting.
Hey, but that's important too, because the weed from 20, 30 years ago is not the same weed now. So it ain't the same as pills, but it's close. Because it's not the same as the weed 20, 30 years ago.
So I'm gonna say the last thing, and Bill, I know you gotta say something. So the issue that I'm running into once again, because even me, I run an adult mental health suit, right? And so say if I have someone that's on my caseload as a client, and you know, marijuana is the only substance of choice, they don't qualify to go to a lot of these substance programs. Right? Yeah. So, you know, they don't qualify. Yeah. They don't qualify. Like, it has to be either alcohol or more mainstream hard drugs. Like the way that marijuana is taking over right now, yeah, a lot of people don't have the capacity to all day. I got homeboys, like I say, I'm not against it. I got homeboys who are very successful, you know, that are very successful. They may smoke a recreation. Like, that's like, hey, man, I might hit every blue moon. That's what they do. So we run into people smoking for the time they cook.
There's a strain called every pretty good.
But Bill, my bad. What you about to say, Bill? I'm not doing Jeremy, man.
I wasn't ever really a fan of smoking marijuana because it just freaks me out. I get on another level when I smoke, but I am a recovered addict. I was a heroin addict, crack addict, alcoholic, everything you can think of. So I had what it comes down to is I just couldn't live life on my terms. And I had
Hold on, one more time. You couldn't do what?
I could not live life on life's terms. And the reason that I could not live life on life's terms is because I had high expectations of other people and high expectations of myself. And, you know, moral and philosophical convictions galore, but I couldn't live up to them. And even though I would have liked to, you know, and what it comes down to is I was trying to, you know, control this person, control that person, control this situation. Why are they posting that on Facebook? Why is this customer doing that? Why are they canceling now? Whatever, all this stuff that I really have no power over.
So you trying to control what you have. You trying to control what's out of control. Like,
right.
On the main thing we say in therapy, control what you can control.
It's personal powerlessness. You know, I don't have the power over this stuff. Whenever something like that happens, I think about the serenity prayer. You know, God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two.
Right.
So do I have any power over this or not? Is it in my hula hoop or not? Am I trying to run the show here or not? Do I need to let go and let God control this if it's out of my control? And then whenever people wouldn't do what I wanted them to do, or whenever somebody said something to make me mad, they'd hurt my self-esteem, my ambitions, my finances, my personal relationships, or my sexual relationships. One of those 5 things got affected. And that's why I got a resentment. And then so I go through life with all this resentment stacked up. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, F the world. I'm going home, I'm going to lock myself in my house, and I'm going to get high all day. And then I wake up the next morning, and I have to do it all over again because of the guilt, shame, and remorse. And so I still see people going through this same cycle every day. And, nothing changes if nothing changes. But when I became crushed by a self-imposed crisis I couldn't evade, I had to face the proposition that I either want to change my life and I need to find, what is my identity as a man of God, especially.
Yeah.
What is my purpose here? And what am I trying to become in life?
So, but I like that term. I could not live life on life's terms.
There you go.
Ooh, here's the problem.
The problem with it is, so what I've been doing is I've been putting this spirit called alcohol. It's spiritum contra spiritus. I've been putting this stuff, alcohol, marijuana, drugs, all this stuff, and I've been filling a giant hole in my heart. And so now that I take the drugs and alcohol out of my system, and now what do I have? I have even more of a mental health problem. But now I have a big hole in my heart, so I have to find something to fill it with.
Right.
Purpose.
Right.
Man,
You got a question over here? Yeah. Just thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And basically, what that means to me, and what I see from that, is that once we start taking accountability and responsibility for ourselves, we don't let outside experiences.
It's internal.
Right. Because that also takes stress level to zero.
That's right.
That takes stress level to zero.
And I'm in agreement with you, and that's why I brought up the idea of a rites of passage. I brought that into the conversation because there is a rites of passage, right? It's just garbage.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the
Right? It's garbage.
What is it?
What is it?
I didn't know we had one right now.
Not today.
No. I'm talking about we teach young people. We're just not teaching them something that's healthy. So what they're getting is it's in that area of a rites of passage. It's just that it's not strategic. It's not intentional. I mean, it is intentional, but not. You know what I'm saying? But so
Snapchat, TikTok, like that's the right to passage now.
Right. So
most teenagers are on their phone.
What's
So like, you gotta be
needed?
real with yourself. It's still needed.
What's needed in terms of rites of passage, as I see it, is getting our young people as early as we can to understand that the journey is always within. The journey is inward, right? If that light inside you shines bright, then you shine bright because of reflection, right? But we're strategically teach people to attach themselves to things and to other people, right? So that we can feel good about ourselves. Right. This is like, we have the conversation about unconditional love. In the song, if you guys ever heard the song, check it out. Dax, D-A-X, Dax. Song is called To Be a Man. In the song, he quotes Chris Rock. Chris Rock said, only women, children, and dogs get unconditional love. Right? The idea of unconditional love, when we have this conversation, generally doesn't work in favor, based upon the conversation we've had in this room. It really doesn't work in favor of women. They don't like the idea of unconditional love. And here's why. For God so loved the world, baby. For God so loved the world, then he gave his only begotten son. So that passage says, that passage is saying that love is giving and love is sacrificing, and doing, and that giving and that sacrifice is done unconditionally, right? There's nothing there that says you're supposed to get anything in return.
That's right.
There's nothing there that says you're supposed to get anything in return. So now when we're having this conversation, I actually had a young lady say, well, I ain't supposed to get nothing?
No.
Right? But the relationship,
That's where I got all that too.
but the relationship template that we're currently using says that you're supposed to beg somebody for what you can get out of them and attach yourself to them for that.
Based on that.
Based upon that. So now That's we're talking about a transaction now. It's a something for something relationship. It's not, right. So we're not even teaching the idea of unconditional love. Well, let me say this better. It's not institutionalized into the fabric of what we call relationship. That's needed.
It's more things that we do that are important. And really, I see I had the cart before the horse for a long time. And I would do and do and do, and I thought I knew, like, what, I was trying to do the right thing. But that was all from here. Right? But as soon as I connected from here, that was the longest journey I ever took, was to get from here to here. And so really it's not what I do, it's what am I being for my family. You know, am I being patient, giving, forgiving, tolerant? Am I practicing spiritual stuff? Am I teaching my stepkids what's important? Am I connecting them to spiritual things, or am I connecting them to worldly things?
Are you a human being or a human doing?
I'm a human being. You know, a spiritual being having a human experience.
Yes, sir.
This one comes to mind with me is that 1 Corinthians 13. You hear it at weddings all the time, love is patient, all that stuff. But for me, these are guidelines of who God would have me be throughout the day in all of my relationships, at home, in the office, in the grocery store. And I just read this, it says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. So each one of those laws, that's a guideline of who God would have me be. Every one of those aspects are guidelines for me to be a man.
Right.
I can bring that in all of my experience.
Right. And what I'm suggesting is that we're just not glorifying in a way that it actually encourages young people to want to embody that, right, in terms of how we are going to exist together in society. See, when we started this conversation is titled "The Conversation Before the Conversation." So the whole premise is that when we sit down here at the table of men and have these conversations, that we're going to say something that people are going to be able to use in the next conversation that they have as they move forward in life. This is the conversation before the conversation. And when the Brotherhood, Manhood, Fatherhood Conversation Series, the whole idea behind that, and this is like we're almost in our 8th year now, was that we wanted to give particularly Black men the opportunity to speak and talk about what he thinks and how he feels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with the intended purpose of us providing information to our natural woman so that we can be better together in relationship. Yep. That was the goal. Because there were so many platforms out there that were telling men and women not to be together, right? But it's like somebody says, if this is a quote that's done, so I'm not, this should be, I hope it's not offensive because it's not intended to be. But they say, but when a white man has a cold, a Black man has cancer. So whatever the illness is, it's just on a different, it tends to be on a different level and it tends to be worse because of the societal norms that says that one group is different or better than the other, right? We all know, well, I ain't gonna say we all know. Those who know that that's not a situation, that is sick, that an illness is an illness, right? And that it's like
we're all created equal in illness. Right.
So when like if you're sneezing and you're blowing your nose, people will say, well, I got to take something because I'm catching the cold. No, you got the cold. The body is already sick. When your nose is running and you're coughing, you got a sore throat. That's your body in the sickness, right? So you're already sick. So we are in the sickness in terms of how we kind of look at relationships, and it's why it becomes so challenging, because we can take something and be comfortable while we're sick, right? If you have a headache, you can take a Tylenol. It doesn't heal you. It just allows you to be comfortable with the headache. And sooner or later that wears off, and then you are reminded that you actually have a headache, right? So we have to stop taking Tylenol. And we do a lot of stuff we do voluntarily. I said this to my wife kind of last time. I said, if you got Pepto-Bismol in your house, you planning on being sick.
Wait. I thought we had this one on hand.
You planning on being sick.
It is just in case. That's you planning.
Hold on, wait, no.
I need it.
I thought
That's what just in case means.
I eat a lot of
right? So, you know, like I say, when I was on combat tours, right, I used to have all my gear on. I used to have Quick Clock, right? And Quick Clock is something you use just to get shot. I ain't trying to get shot, but if I get shot, I got what I need to hit my shoes, right? So,
yeah, you plan on getting shot.
I am preparing myself for the potential of me getting in a firefight and potentially getting.
Why would you get a firefight? Because you're on the battlefield.
Right.
So that means that people get shot
on the battlefield. But if you ain't on the battlefield, you don't have. If you're not on the battlefield, you don't have.
You don't need that, dude.
I ain't got no more.
They would know they're bulletproof.
I just started doing that about 6 years ago. Calm down, man. It took me a minute.
But we all have protection. We all have protection that we have. Yeah. And they're all based upon fear. And we said this a number of times. We've all been afraid of something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we went through the thing, we encountered the thing that we were afraid of, we realized I was more afraid in my mind than it was that I'm serious. The fear I imagined was much greater than the actual real life situation. Right?
Yeah.
So now this is what I try to tell some of my clients. If you know that, if your life has taught you that your imagination is always worse than what happens in real life, then you should stop paying attention to your imagination when it comes to being afraid of something.
Well, we gotta understand the unhealthy thinking pattern, right? So that's one of the first things I do with a lot of my clients, right? When they come in for therapy, like I show them the 8 unhealthy thinking patterns, so they can start to see if they practice any one of these more so than not others, right? So you may have like catastrophic thinking. That's the person that like, man, my life could be terrible like right now. As soon as I go outside, I'm getting in the car, they die in the car, saying like, wait, that's catastrophic thinking, right? Or you may have those that may have black and white thinking, like, well, it doesn't happen this way or that way, it's all bad. Right. So those are just the name of few, but I always go to my clients and help understand that so you can catch yourself if you're on that thinking pattern, right? So it's important for us to have that what we call psychoeducation around, right? But what's
the name of your
Oh yeah, man. So I'm with No Limit Counseling and Education. You guys can find us more information about us at nolimitempowerment.org. And then also you can find me on IG as the_Juggernaut_therapist. And we have to help with all your mental health and social emotional health needs. But with that being said, to go back to me preventative and prepared. Like one of the things I think we have to do better, I would like us to start to do better, is almost like I call it reverse engineering. So like when I work with parents, I always ask them this question, no matter how old their child is, who do you want your child to be at 25? Right. And now you know who you want your child to potentially be, not use that word potentially be at 25. Right. So now you know, okay, if my child is 8 years old and this is who I hope they are at 25, potentially be at 25, how am I pouring into them? Right? So we started to reverse that. We started to go backwards. All right, this is what I need to do to build this person forward. Right. So to me, being preventative, like I know I want my daughter to be a proactive person, not a reactive. Right. So proactively, I want you to have a Pepto-Bismol just in case. I don't want you to get sick and now your stomach hurting and you got cramp, you got falling over. Now you got to drive to the store.
Is she gonna
you got to check out with too? Yeah. But I guess.
I have a question for you. Yes, you talk to your clients about what they watch before they go to sleep. Because a lot of times people watch a lot of trauma-built shows before they go to sleep.
So I do talk about the importance of what we call your sleep hygiene, right? According to sleep hygiene, the things that you do before you fall asleep. Because everybody's sleep hygiene is different.
That's
right.
So usually, like sometimes I'll go to bed and I'll get on Facebook for half an hour, and I go, what am I doing? This is not healthy, and I might do it twice a week.
Right.
Because I whatever I'm putting into my mind is what I'm subconsciously dreaming about, and things at nighttime, and then my superconscious is there. So there's conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. you know, and so I have to be real careful about what I put into my body because it affects the way I wake up the next day.
It's all nutrition.
It is.
Right?
And
I mean, that's a part of it.
Yeah, so it's a part of it, right? So it's not what we put in our, either way, a lot of times people hear nutrition, they just think about what we eat.
Right.
You know, your nutrition was what you put into it in your body in shape or fashion. But we have to start educating around that. And I think we, as this generation of now, I think our generation, the millennials, I'm not a millennial, but I don't know what I am. I'm one of these generations. You know, I'm a Gen X or a millennial, one of them, right? Is that what they call? Yeah, so one of these generations, right? We were the first generation, like, how the technology explosion. Right? So I think it's important for us to understand, okay, I know how this now, how it can be detrimental. It's important for me to train my children up on what not to do. Like my daughter, she's 12. So that phone is like on her hip. Right. But she knows, hey, look, 10 o'clock, turn it off. You know, down the phone, no more communication, no more looking at social media, and all that stuff. So all these things, it's important that we train upon our children, especially about insight.
Right. So we talk about the right spectrum. We together. Okay. Okay. So now Pernell said something that I wanted to touch, and actually wanted to. I guess I was. When he said that he asked his clients to picture their child at 25. I do that exact same thing, and I'm always interestingly amazed at how most people, because this is basically what I said, imagine your child at 25. What type of, how do you see them, how would you like to see them in the world, right? They don't know how they want to see their child in the world. That's one. You got to get, all right, appreciate you. Yes, sir, no, one love.
Great conversation.
Yes, sir. But we need to, yeah. I want to, we need to write this right fast. So if, I'm always interestingly amazed at how they haven't even thought about what type of human being they want to help manage themselves in this world, right? You don't even know, you don't have a plan for what you get ready to come loose on the rest of society.
I would say, I think this, we're trying to get we see, like, I get to work with a lot of people and their children and their wives and and all kinds of different parts of their family, and so they might be able to see what they want their child to be before they don't even know their own identity.
Right, but that's part of it, right? It's discovering that.
That's an expectation that they have for their child before they even have, they don't even realize who they want to become themselves.
But yeah, I agree. And I look at it as those, I see the expectation as an unrealistic expectation for this reason. When I ask that question, I've never, for me, it's the look on their faces when I ask the question. When you see that, when you look into the future in terms of how what you intend to help manage in terms of the development of your child and what that looks like. Once they actually think about it, then the idea is, okay, how are you going to, what seeds are you planting now? What energy, what environment are you going to put your child in? And how are you going to do all the things you need to do in terms of putting all the pieces in place that need to be in place so that happens?
Well, I think
when they got pregnant, when we were getting pregnant and having babies, we didn't even think about that. We were just getting pregnant and having babies. And then and now that the children are here, we're in a cycle. We got to get out, we got to get it, we got to do what we got to do to make sure that we're now providing for the child. So now in terms of personal development and for yourself and for your children, these things actually are essential, but they actually go on the back burner. Right? Right now, because now we're in survival mode.
Yeah, it depends on your mentality.
Right.
It became paramount for me because I know that by watching myself become my father, I'm like, wow, this is wild. Because I wasn't with my dad every day. So the fact that I wasn't even with him every day, and I still end up becoming him just from those bits and pieces and, you know, the DNA and all that stuff, the spiritual things passed down.
Right.
I was like, I mean, I have a son. He's right over there. He'll be 11. What's up, Jay? My boy. Yes, sir.
He like this shit.
That's my guy, man. He a humble guy, man. He a real humble cat, man. But I was just like, I have to. He's going to become me. I know this for a fact now.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it is all of that is a part of it. So like you had to become your father to understand your father, and then you can have a relationship with your father.
Yeah.
I get why you did that because life is hard. And then so now you able to be gentler with your parenting and be more effective. And then when Jay has a kid, he's gonna be more effective because you are more present. Like it's all like what I realize is the older I get is like everything is based on like almost like an epiphany understanding of how things work. So like that's why that's why this is called a conversation before the conversation, because this is the conversation where we get the ideas out and then you are able to cultivate and nurture those ideas and then be better people. That's why when I come get my hair cut, there's certain things I'm talking to David about that can be of no consequence, insignificant, but it was important because it made me be like, oh, either I was right, but I didn't know why I was right, or it helped me like cultivate a better experience in life. So like all these things are consequential and important to what we're doing. Every experience is for a greater experience.
Yeah. All things matter.
It's the most important. It's the most important thing.
Work together for God's goodness.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
All things are. How you said it? All things are
together for God's goodness.
Yep. Me and Billy, we gonna write a book. Yeah, there you go. Hey, that's a good name of a book. We'll talk about that.
So I can see I can see in the things that I've learned and being very, very intentional about every moment that I spend with my son, and just seeing how he just is now. And I'm like,
it's
a beautiful thing.
So for me, one of the things that was like really, really, there's a lot. So I'm trying to, it still almost sounds like I'm saying set aside, so it's an extra special thing, but it's part of the process. When I come to a realization that my movement is not beneficial, whatever that means, right? And I make a change to be, and I make a change in my way. I'm looking at it. I'm becoming a better man, right? When I started sharing that transformation with my children, it was key. I didn't realize it when I started doing it, but as time went on, I got it, right? And I'm going to borrow something from, I apologize, I'm just going out of my head. But this is the thing. I think it was Dr. Alan Burke who said, that it was a master class that Zoe had. Dr. Alan Burke says, when you transform, you transmit your transformation to your children, right? So when you overcome something, you're now in the work that you've done to overcome it. You are now teaching your children how to overcome and that they can overcome. You transmit that, and it's not. And you don't even have to be. They don't even have to watch it happen.
They
right?
can feel it happen.
They can feel it happen. They can notice the difference. They can notice the difference.
Like
So
definitely say it's frequency.
right.
Osmosis is a real thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, our whenever we operate from our brains work at a certain energy level. But then whenever we operate from the heart, it's like if you were at a gas station and you had a guy behind you with a gun in his shirt.
I got a gun as well, so you can battle it out.
that was about to rob the store, but you didn't know because he gave no warning.
Right.
You would feel that consciously. Well, I would say that would be a super consciously.
Right.
At standing at the register, you'd say something feels off because there's somebody behind you 3 feet with a low frequency.
Right.
And so you can feel that stuff. So we operate at frequencies, and you know, when I'm operating out of ego or am I operating out of humility?
Right.
So you were saying something a little bit ago about being able to use our transformation. You know, well, I was taught that, and I you know, the church and my parents and all these things, but I didn't choose to live that way for 18 years of my life. And so I was, you know, out there ripping and running, living on resentments and fear. And so once I came to the end of that road, and it wasn't me that came to the end of that road, it's through God's grace, I got to the end of that road. And what I was going to say was using that transformation. That's what it was. Now I can use my past. That's the most valuable asset I have today.
Yeah.
Because that's the most valuable asset that I have. Not only can I use it to become a better person for myself, but I can help others become better people. You know, so once I have, it's a clear recognition of who and what I really am, followed by a sincere desire to become what God would have me be.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And all that I can become.
It's like, yeah, because when you tell your story, now that they see you and you give them your story, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
And that's the testimony right there, and then that opens a door. Because clearly you have found something, you have adapted something to yourself that has caused you to grow. So now I'm more open to hear what you have to say, or I want to see what you can help me with, because you just proved it to me by letting me know your story and me seeing where you are right in this moment.
Yeah. Because the truth is nobody wanna learn how to swim just like somebody who doesn't swim.
Right.
So that gets it's all a part of the maturation. You can be like, hey, I was addicted to heroin, I addicted to crack, and it's pretty awesome, but it turned my life into this.
Yeah.
You know, but if you be like, hey, don't do it, people gonna be like, man, you don't know nothing about this.
No.
Yeah, you kind of have to be a part of. You have to have been.
It's a more effective and more effective.
Right. That's just human nature. Like I don't want your advice if you don't have it. You don't have it.
Yeah.
You don't have life experience.
I went from being in the juvenile detention center to going back and speaking and performing at the juvenile detention center.
Yep.
And one of my songs had the lyrics in it about one of my times in the juvenile detention center. And when the kids heard it, they went wild, and they actually made me perform that song again right after I was done with it. Because in that moment they knew that I completely understood what they were going through.
Yeah.
So I can just say, I understand what you're going through. But when they heard that, they're like, now they're like, oh, he knows exactly what I'm
something to commit shoulder to shoulder with them on a common journey.
Instant connection.
Yeah, so, you know, I always thought that the word sin, you know, I had this completely different idea of sin. I could go through life and I just keep trying to use this and use this and use this, and this is humility, this is intellect, and this is humility. And so I can go through life operating off intellect, and I just sin and sin and sin and sin. And so I had this idea of what I thought sin was, and actually sin just means to miss the mark. That's all sin means. And then if you look up the word repent means to redirect or a new direction. So it's not that I'm, you know, asking for forgiveness and all this stuff all the time. You know, I was forgiven for everything that I will ever do 2,000 years ago. Now the only thing that's stopping me from being a better man today is myself. And then so now, you know, I have people in my life that I can go to and ask, you know, hey, what do you think about this? And they go, well, I'm not going to tell you what I think. How do you think God would handle this situation? Which is great, because that's complete humility. As soon as I eliminate this, and then I say, you know, what would God have me be in this situation? And is this going to help my family? Is this going to hurt my family? Is this going to hurt my career path? Is this going to help my career path? Is this going to hurt this relationship with this guy I'm working with, trying to help overcome drugs and alcohol, or is it going to hurt him? You know?
That's profound, man. I thought sin was just fun.
It was fun until it wasn't fun.
Oh man, my father-in-law says, I said, how you doing this morning? He said, I'm saying, it don't feel good, it's not feel good. Right? But you don't know, for most of us, we don't know that we're not good. Again, going back to the idea of what quote unquote success is in society. If you look, they say diamonds are a girl's best friend, but the reality is we all like something that looks good.
They're forever.
Right? Yeah, but supposed to. Yeah. But we all like something that looks good. So if it shines and it sparkles, we tend to become attracted to it, even if it's the thing that's going to kill us.
That's whenever I can eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or I can eat from the tree of life. This is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and this is the tree of life.
Right.
And so this is counterfeit fruit. It's kind of like mixed fruit, and this is real fruit. So whenever I go throughout the day, I can use this spiritual discernment to see counterfeit things, especially in our churches, in our congregation, wherever we might go, in our fellowships where we're part of. Right. Are these people really leaders, or are they just deceiving me?
Right. And you can definitely catch the vibe, because what you're talking about, like, let's say, so now we the ancient Egyptians, it was the Ka and the Ba. Right? You have the Ka mind, you have the Ka mind, you have the Ka spirit, and then you got the Ba. And together it's Ka. So it's about balance. It's about being able to, and this is why I think relationships when we're in the space where they want to work best is balance. Right? So you have a household where one of the parents is missing, it's an unbalanced situation for the child. Right? If you got a household and both parents are there, it's like the child gets a good picture of themselves. So how someone said it, like you said, they get half their chromosomes from me, and they get half their chromosomes from their mom. If they only have access to half of the chromosomes, then they only have half the story.
Masculinity or unconditional love.
Right? Right. So you need all of it, right? So, okay, so we're talking about manhood, we're talking about masculinity.
Great topic.
I said this to some ladies recently when I was kind of like picking brains for this topic. And in doing so, I was surprised at, and I'm used to getting resistance. No, but I was getting some real resistance. I was like, wait. So we've actually gotten away from having a conversation about what I was trying to have a conversation about. Now we're doing something else. So here's my question. And this is the question I'm posing for everybody to consider. We all know that we're not perfect people. We all know that we don't know everything. We know that there was times we thought something was, and we later found out that it wasn't. So that means that just because I think I know that something is true or right today, doesn't mean that it is. I can actually be wrong.
I oftentimes use this thing called the set-aside prayer.
Oh, Gibson, I'm giving it to you. I can be wrong. You can be wrong. Why don't you want to engage in a healthy conversation that lets you know you are wrong? Why is it so important for you to hold on to something that's wrong? I'm not saying that it is, but why can't we have a conversation about it? Why can't we examine it? Why can't we explore it? Why so much pushback from finding out that you're wrong so you can begin the journey to be right? It's a thing, like it's a look in people's face. It's a tone in their voice when you're challenging when you're challenging their reality, right? But because there's a challenge there, this reality thing now is looking more like an illusion. If I question one thing, I got to question some more things. That's the one thing about questioning everything, is one question's going to lead you to another question, which is going to lead you to another question, which is going to lead you to another question. That's uncomfortable for people. But it's uncomfortable for people because it's another thing that we have not learned to weave or institutionalize into the fabric that we call relationship. We're just afraid to actually look in the mirror and see ourselves. But the reality is the mirror ain't lying. You in there.
Like he said with the ego, this guy that I watch on YouTube, Bank Pound, shout out Bank Pound, man. He did 33 years in Virginia State Prison. Yeah, wow. Now he's out. And he's doing great on YouTube. He's sharing stories and trying to keep people out of trouble.
Right.
And he said the ego is every guy's opinion of themselves. And he's like, man, dealing with that ego, that's every guy's opinion of himself. So if I sit here and have this conversation with you, and I come to the realization that my opinion of myself is wrong, now the only next thing is, well, then who am I?
Right.
And then I can come to the realization that I don't know who I am.
Right.
So I ain't trying to hear nothing saying, man. Leave me alone.
That's uncomfortable.
But it's great. I mean,
but it is uncomfortable.
It's not great. It's great to you. Most people is not.
No, I'm saying, yeah, it's based on where you are mentally and spiritually.
Yeah, that's
where you're like, okay, I don't know who I am, or I can figure it out, or let me build on this, or let me seek out this. And so it can be a great place to start. Like, okay, that person who I secretly loathe anyway is not actually who I am.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the biggest boulder and like the biggest obstacle that you're gonna face is realizing that you can't blame nobody for nothing.
Right.
So like you, because we've been doing this 8 years, we are in a place where we automatically, even if our initial knee-jerk reaction is like, no, it's this person. When we go home at night, because we've been doing it so long, we're gonna be like, okay, what is it about me that makes this happen? Yeah. But like for the most part, that's the first part is realizing that it's the self-work, it's inward. Most people don't do the first part. That's why everything is triggering, everything is upsetting. People can't have these conversations because they just disagree. Or no, I think it's this and that's what it is.
Or they may haven't done the research, so they don't even have anything to say.
Exactly. Most people haven't even researched what they're arguing.
Yeah.
They just saying, no, the Bible says this, cuz. And it's like, oh, okay, no problem. So let's examine it. Because there are people that initially I used to be like, oh, you believe that Bible stuff, you don't know the research. But the reality is people who done the research and they can be like, nah, it comes from this and it comes from that, then we can build. Right. But if you ain't done none of the work on your own, then we can't build because I'm bringing all the supplies. And even the supplies I have may be flawed because I have nobody else to compare it to.
Right. Yeah. Right. Somebody might have a better measuring tool.
Yeah. I can be like, this is the truth because I did the research, but I don't realize that there's a whole other research. And I haven't done.
That's what research does.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to come to you in a moment. When I first started just reading, and there's this hunger inside of me. Right? I'm going to say this. I don't like to read, but I love learning stuff. Right? And the best way for me to get it was in a book. So when I first started reading, somebody asked me a question. And I ended up going to the back of the book. And they was like, well, how do you know that what that person wrote is whatever? Right? But all books basically have their sources listed. Right? So you can pick up one book, and the author of that one book used 50 books, information from 50 books, to put this book together. And then when you go to those 50 books have 50 books to put them together. Right? So that's why you know, it's like, okay, shout out to my wonderful grandmother, Miss Roberta Campbell. She has left us, and she's been gone for a few years now. But she taught me, and I didn't realize this until maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. Some of the stuff that she said to me rings so true. I changed the way I say it, but my grandmother was telling me then, and my grandmother was a church-going lady. Right? I mean, when she went to church all the time, she went to church all the time. It was interesting, my grandfather would not go to church, right? But he drove her, because she didn't drive, he drove her to church, and he sat in the car. And my grandmother was in church 7 days a week. But he would sit in the car. So when I was visiting my grandmother, I would be in the church with her. When I got bored with that, I'd go sit in the car with my grandfather. That was how it was done. Now I said all that to say this. My grandmother planted some seeds in me, and one of the seeds that she planted is in a thing now that I now say and that we say, and we're not the only ones to say this. It's just a thing that people say is question everything. Question everything. When you have the mindset to question everything, then what you're doing is you're actually building or living living with a willing spirit, right? So there's the willing, and then there's the unwilling, right? Right. So and as long as you're willing, we can always have a conversation. You don't have to feel attacked. You don't have to be all that. But it's when you're unwilling, it becomes a battle. And the way I say it to my wife is, wait a minute, this is not a competition. Right? And it was like a thing, because I would say something, and she would come back, and I would come back, and I would think, what are we doing? Right. Remember, this is not a competition. Right? I'm sharing something, but now it took us, we've been married, we have an anniversary coming up, July 1st. How long has it been? 29 years. Right? 29 years. It took us a while. I'm saying it took us a while to get there. She got a medal. I agree.
People are prone to be offensive.
Yes. I think of I see to understand that the Bible verse says, I see now the mirror of the things that on that day I'll see God face to face. Right? And I read that and chugging down the shower, and mirrors all see me. Right? I can't quite see clearly. They stole that seeing mirror, and I see God face to face. Right? What does that mean? I made it in the likeness of my Creator. Right? That I have the same power to do it within me. Right? And I need to understand that. And how can I be teachable? Like Billy was talking about that satisfied prayer. It's how can I? It's hard to let go of old ideas of everything I think I know about something. Right? I can take it and just put it over here on a shelf for a second. Set aside everything I think I know about God, myself, my fellows, and whatever. For a new experience with God, myself, my fellows. For instance, my son's going to school up there at FSU. He wants to pick me up. He said, go up there, and every day I ask him, I say, what are we going to school today, Matthew? And he goes, hey, man, I learned about this. And he says, hey, man, I learned about affirmative action. I know the idea about affirmative action. but let me just take everything I think I know about that. Let's go here for a second. Right. Tell me what you learned from your college professor today. Right. He knows a little bit more than you. Right. And then I learned some new ideas about what my old ideas were new, broad, and what I thought that meant. Right. So, like you were saying, how could I learn something new? When I asked God to help me understand talking donkey or floating axe head or swallowing a skull and eating it, what does all that mean to me? Right? And the Spirit reveals these things to me, and I begin to understand and share them with others. So, fascinating conversation, and thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Welcome. I appreciate you being here. But again, it's just being willing. Right.
That's why those stories are told that way. They told in a way for you to find clarity in you doing the work. It's told in a way for it to be broad and for you to be like, what does that mean? Most people don't say, what does that mean? They just be like, no, it is what it is, and then. But that's if you don't do the work, you'll get. That's what you'll get. Right. That's like even if you go to school, you talk about like amoebas and atoms. But if you don't look through the microscope, what is it called? Microscope. Because I ain't been to school in a while.
I thought you were a
You know, I don't know everything. I know most.
I know what I know.
So you go find it then.
But it's like you have to look through the microscope. I can tell you about it. I can tell you about the amoebas. I can tell you about the atoms. I can tell you about the chromosomes. I can tell you about all these things. But if you never looked through the microscope and seen it for yourself, then I'm just telling you something.
To God, work my knees.
Like different times, the people might grow up, right? When you're younger, you have a question for everything. But depending on what kind of culture you're growing up with, that can be seen as different standard.
Right.
And you could be like made to, like I told you something, you want to ask a question?
Right.
Like, can you just hear what I just said? There's no question. And then as we get older, we stop questioning things. And so, like now, when you question somebody, you're not trying to argue with them, but they might automatically think that you're challenging them. But I'm asking you a question to see you expound on this because I'm trying to hear what you got to think.
But
you don't know when somebody's trying to be a jerk, man.
When you got older, you realize that some of that pushback is because they didn't know and it made them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So they was like, you disrespecting me. It's like because they just didn't know. They didn't know why the sky was blue. They just knew that the sky was always blue.
Guys, what's going on is for me, what it came down to was a lack of being able to communicate with them. And I couldn't communicate because of fear, and I couldn't communicate with something because of resentment that I had. So really looking back at this meeting out there, like we were just talking about, you know, all throughout the day, I try to make it constructive, not a destructive view of my day throughout the day. Every 10 minutes, hour, whatever, I try to see where I fell short in a situation and what I could have done differently. That's the most important thing, so that I have something to grow toward, an ideal to grow toward.
So we like
you know?
grateful.
But the other thing is the communication. That's what I started with. So a lot of times I won't communicate with people because of these fears. I might be afraid to communicate with my parents. I might be afraid to communicate with my girlfriend. I might be afraid to communicate with whoever it might be. But if I can set aside everything I think I know, like what Mark was saying, and set it on the shelf and become open-minded. You know, Herbert Spencer has I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he has a quote about it's contempt prior to investigation. That's what it comes down to. Right. Okay. Yeah. So when I close my mind to all spiritual things or what somebody else has to say or believe, then I'm automatically stunted in my growth. So whenever I can have a conversation with somebody like Rebecca was having a bad night a couple nights ago, and we just laid there on the edge of the bed for 2 hours talking about it. She was bawling her eyes out. By the end of the 2 hours, she was just happier than a pig and a pig fan. You know what I mean? And
you ever seen a pig and a pig fan?
Yeah.
They look comfortable. They look comfortable.
A few years ago,
like open in a big field.
A few years ago, I wouldn't have had that conversation with her.
Right.
I would have done everything I could have done to avoid that conversation.
Right.
And so now, when I can seek to understand her instead of trying to get her to understand me, you got to understand me. No, I'm not that important. I need to understand you. I need to understand how you feel. I need to understand. It's seek to understand her than to be understood. Where there's darkness, may I bring light. Where there's despair, may I bring hope. All that stuff is the same principle of deep prayer. So instead of always trying to think of what I can get out of occasions in life, now what can I bring to the occasion? You know, I got invited a while back to go speak at a men's retreat for a fellowship that I'm part of. I had these high expectations of what I was going to get out of this retreat, and I actually don't feel like I got a whole lot out of it. But I was able to go speak at it and bring a lot of stuff to it. And then just me bringing that stuff to the retreat and having this spiritual experience and being able to brighten these guys' lives up, that made it worth it. That was everything right there. And so I'll always look back and go, that was an amazing retreat because of that.
Okay, so I met Dylan who came to do some work at the house. And he was standing out the door while his partner was in there handling stuff. He was outside and he picked up the phone. He was on board somebody. I was actually moving around, getting ready to leave the house. And I can't remember the author, but you mentioned an author that we both read. I remember Campbell. Yes, yeah, Joseph Campbell.
He was on the phone.
He was, oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
That's why you use it.
You said Joseph Campbell, and I was walking by and said, walked away. Then he ended up getting a phone. He talked with you a little bit, and then he actually got up with you, and then he and I talked a little bit. And then we found each other on social media platforms. Being open and being available is so key, right? So I'm saying that because we do this show once a month. Billy finds us, right? And he's normally in the chat room making comments or hey, you guys had a great conversation, that kind of stuff. So he's a fan of what we do, and I've watched. And of course, I get to see what he's doing too. And he is the American Gunner. He has now. Is that your range?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has. If you like to fire weapons, if you like to fire weapons, yeah, you can hook up. Billy Harper. So he can take you through some things.
You guys go check out now that he's mentioned it. I wasn't gonna plug it, but go check out American Gunner on YouTube and make sure you hit that bell notification and like.
Right. Yeah. So but the point I'm making is when you're just open, wonderful things will come into your life. Right? If you're in the habit of being grateful, this is the challenge. Being grateful allows you to see more things in your life to be grateful for. Yeah. That's it. Right? So gratefulness begets gratefulness. So something as simple as at the end of your day saying, I'm grateful. You know, okay, for instance, I was walking through Edenville, the oldest Black historic town in the United States, founded in 1887. When I was walking through Edenville, I heard a bird, and I looked up, and there was a falcon just sitting on a branch. I just stopped, just looked. Then I took a photo, right? And then I held my head down to do something else, and I looked up, and the bird was just flying away. You know what I'm saying? It was just one of those moments, but I was grateful. Right? And then I just noticed more and more this time of the year I'm seeing more falcons. Right. They're like everywhere. And I've seen them flying away with a mouse or a rat, seen them flying away with a snake, right? So but what that does, that just takes me to like nature. It puts me in the mind that I'm in nature. And I find myself in the backyard sometimes sitting in a chair. If you sit in your backyard long enough, you become a part of everything that's happening around you. And then everything that you would normally be like running away from, it just joins you. I mean, it's nothing for me to sit there and then watch a red bird just come and land on the table. We're this close.
I know Mark has
right? So but that goes back to, I think I'm tying it into, are you a human being or are you a human doer? When we can get to the place where we're willing to be, then you are. Right?
I am that I be.
Right.
I am that I am becoming.
Right. Mark,
I feel like symbolism occurs too. Whenever I see one of these, I say, God, what's the spiritual symbolism of a tailpipe, or a crane, or a blue heron, or an otter across the middle of the road in the city? What's an otter doing in the middle of the road?
Right.
You know, and then I see the spiritual significance of me. And then one more thing to open-mindedness. I use the symbolism of a beach ball. In Hebrew study, they do what's called a midrash, where it's like a gym. There's many facets to the Word of God. and there is no wrong answer. I might be this side, he might be this side, and then we're listen. There's a past, a present, a future. There's a literal talking donkey. There's a figurative talking donkey. Right. There's a masculine, a feminine, many different facets to that gem. It's kind of like a beach ball, where I can see the red stripe and the blue one, and you might see the yellow and the green one. If I say, oh no, it's only red and blue, then I can't see the other perspective. So to be open to hear other perspectives, no matter how out there they may seem, I'm able to see the same facets of what is instead of just here in America, Western theology. You know, you got one man up there saying, this is what this is what it means, and we all know instead of reading it for ourselves. So I'm so much into the Word of God, and I just wanted to include that in what you're sharing. So, and that, I appreciate your work. So, thanks for that, Nick. And I can just jump in.
No,
That's why the live audience is here. It was in my heart. Interactive.
No, that was real. That was dope. That's dope. Yeah.
I wanna get off a little bit. We are just a little bit. Hopefully it's just
Kind of deep.
yeah, but I love it. So our topic is, what does it mean to be a man?
Keyword deep.
Right? So I wanted to have this conversation because in having conversations with people, I was unpleasantly surprised that when I would share things in formulation for this topic, and the dismissive or deflective conversations that were happening when I was talking to women on this about this topic. Devin is known to say, man, people don't really care about men. They really don't care about what we think or how we feel. They really don't care about it. And that was happening. Right? So when I saw the song Dax, I just sent it out to a bunch of people, right? To be a man. I sent it out. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be a topic. And I wanted to get a reaction in the field for what people thought about the song. And
I have some kickback towards it, to be honest.
really, I had two women that paused to speak in a way where I was interpreting the conversation as one where they really cared. It was like a recognition that they didn't know that they didn't care, and they want to care, right? Yeah.
You know, that observation came, you know, like kind of because men usually are the person that everyone goes to, or a man in your life is who you go to when you need help. So when a man needs help, it's like, where does he go? And you know, the way society is now, usually not too many places, and I'm sure there are, that's why I always say some, but not all. Right. But it's usually not too many places familiar for a man to go where it's safe for him to really vent, you know? Right. So like that's where this whole thing came from. And I started really paying attention, like, well, who really want to hear what you got to say? And like a man is like, look, I don't like this. Like right. It's not. It wasn't a lot of places I found. Right. So that's why I was like,
well, that's where this is have a barber that you can talk to. It is.
Right. And I think this comes up a lot in my chair. People are like, I don't really know where I can just go talk.
Yeah.
No, and I'm like, man, you can't talk to your girl. And dudes are like, nah, she's gonna use everything I say against me as ammo. Right. So people tend to be reserved and they just don't let it out. So that's where that came from. Like, yeah, most men don't. Like, most of the world, the known society, like, doesn't really care much about what men's complaints are or what they're going through or their feelings or anything.
Because ask somebody, like, ask a random woman you don't know, right? Ask her, like, if you were talking to a man, right, he just started to cry uncontrollably, what would you do? Or you can ask, not even ask a man that, hey, if you're the president of a man, he can start crying uncontrollably.
I see it all the time.
But a normal man will tell you, or a normal woman will tell you, I don't know, that'd be uncomfortable. I'll probably walk away. I'll probably leave. Or I don't know, that just would be weird. When it shouldn't be weird.
Yeah.
Because everybody on this planet has a moment where they are moved to uncontrollable tears. Sometimes they may do it alone, but if it's weird that I can do it in this company or with someone else, then that's a problem. Because if a woman starts crying uncontrollably, everybody in this room is gonna try to figure out how can I console this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, like David, we verbatim we will say, is there anything that I can do right now to make this stop? But if a man do it, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? This guy just crying uncontrollably. What's wrong with him? It's gonna literally be like, what's wrong with him? So because that's the reality of most people, it's hard. So when the onus or the weight that's on the man's shoulder to be a quote unquote provider, and we think that provider means pay all the bills and make sure that nothing goes wrong. Imagine that being the idea of what a quote unquote man is, and then I also can't cry. So if I'm responsible for making it, if I'm responsible for if the sky fall, I'm responsible for catching it, and I also can't cry. Think about the fucking weight that is.
No, it's true though. That's the good way to put it. You know, like I was thinking about how you said, you know, about people coming in to solve their problems. I've been had that put on me in the last 2 or 3 months in a situation that I'm in. And so, but it's okay because they're coming to me, and then I go to the source, which is my Father. You know, so when I can tap into this untapped energy. You know, God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipotent. And when I can tap into that source and I realize who my identity is in my Creator, then I automatically get unbounded power that I can give to others. Then my cup is filled, it overflows, and I give it to other people. So God gives to man, and then man gives back to God.
Right. Right. So we're talking about willingness. We're talking about when you talk something else I heard you say was inward. Right. So by knowing that the journey is always in, right? By living your life in a way where you're always constantly looking in the mirror, right? We say one of the ways we say, well, haven't done it yet. You get who you are at the moment you are that thing, right? So when you know that, right, and you're owning it, you put yourself in a position where you give yourself grace for your faults. And when you can give yourself grace for your faults, you automatically have grace for other people. Right? So I tend to have like some pushback because sometimes people will say something in the social media world, people will put out some stuff. And when I think I hear, I'm saying this specifically this way. When I think I hear in a statement that someone posts that they're saying that they're throwing people away or encouraging other people to throw people away, I tend to say, what I'll do is I'll go on and say, interesting, right? And then if they respond to my interesting and they're willing to go kind of have a small back and forth, I'll have a back and forth about it. And I get it because we're basically, I think what they're generally trying to do is create a space for themselves where they're not allowing themselves to exist in a place or in a space where they're going to be subject to have all kinds of bad things happen to them. And I get that. But what we're also doing is we're leaving those people out there. So if the idea is influence, if you don't want to go over there because you think that you can be influenced into participating in activities that are not good for you, right? That's one. And you're negating the fact that you may be the one key person that's supposed to be over there providing influence for them. Mark?
Yeah, thank you. I think what a wonderful conversation. I think that word great. I've heard it defined as a deserved favor. To God, you're just a worthless sinner. God helping you out, right? Right. But I define grace today as the empowering presence of Christ in me, which enables me to become all that I could become. And that means that's great. And the ideal that I become empowered, the prototype, that's what it was. We were talking directly to the topic, what is it like to be a man? Adam was the first prototype. Christ mentioned that the last Adam, some interpretations could have been the second Adam, but the last Adam, our prototype. Moses was the prototype. And by Moses' prototype, he went inside of his tent and talked face to face with God. Our bodies are referred to as sin. So he went within himself and talked to God face to face and came out and shared that with the rest of the people. So we all have this ability. It's the portable tabernacle that we carry with us wherever we go. I can see in again Western theology, there's what's called contemplative prayer. Many other cultures around the world have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. Praying is asking, meditating is listening, and then contemplating is thinking about that. Well, we pray, we ask, but I don't have no time to listen. Much less I don't have a diaper and incense to do all that meditating and stuff. But I find I can listen and hear from listening to God anywhere. On the treadmill, God in the car, walk down the street, in the bed at night, wherever I may be. I can open up that channel like a radio. And so asking, listening, and then thinking about that. What is the meaning of that? Seeing in the mirror will clear and I'll face to face. Whatever situation I may be contemplating. And again, more and more is revealed. As I practice that, it becomes a working heart and mind. I intuitively know I've awakened a new nature. The old man is dead. I'm a new creation. I'm no longer trying to work on the old man and rebuild that old structure. I've got a new structure that I'm really building into my room. My father's house has many mansions, so I'm always adding on to new mansions. As the kingdom of heaven is within you, create the state of consciousness, the state of being.
Come on now.
And then when I'm in that state of being, we become selfless, effortless, timeless. My thoughts no longer become about myself and my little problems. It becomes what I naturally. Well, of course, I help that man in the ditch. Why would I walk right by it? And then effortless. What used to take 10,000 hours to master, I can now do it 1,000. I can learn stuff. I've never been in any seminaries or anything like that. I had a spiritual experience about 5 years ago. God just kind of zapped me, and I started reading the Word of God and started understanding it. I don't know how I read it and I understand it. Like, read the book, right? You would understand it. Right? And anyway, but I'll be quiet. But then finally on that note, though, having understood that, as he is, so are we in this world. How can I walk in the light as he is in the light? How can I be a transformer? And wherever I go, I can bring that healing, that power, that love, that grace to others. Share that. And to have been through, I don't have to have had cancer to know what it's like to feel sick. I don't have to have lost a son to know what it's like to feel lost in my life. But I can find that common bond with someone else to make me too. And just like Jesus descended into the pit of hell and got the keys to set the captives free, we have the ability now to step right into that bar room and say, hey, brother, if you want help, come on here.
And you'll be amazed. When I started saying I was a life coach, and my book was on relationship, I was totally surprised at how many men were wanting to talk to get a perspective other than the one they had about how to be better in relationships. I was amazed at the number of men that were doing that. And I mean, this is one of the things that one of the instruments that we use to make these conversations available, or make these perspectives available to the conversation. And I want to say this, because we're about to end. I want to say, Devin, Jason, and Jeremy, thank you, thank you, thank you. I had an idea, and we talked about it, and we all agreed, and we definitely made an impact. We made a severe impact. I'm looking forward to us doing much, much more. To my wonderful wife, thank you for all that. all that, right? Because I'm not easy. I mean, somebody says she deserves a medal, she does. I'm not easy.
Right? Somebody else was almost just like going on the same page.
So
you're welcome. You welcome.
Yeah, I mean that with all my life. But every man and woman that was willing to join us in conversation and talk about whatever it was we talked about, to help provide an opportunity for people to really get an idea other than the one they currently have for consideration and use it in a useful way for their own personal development. I thank you. We've been doing this going on 8 years, and we started off doing it in a room, just talking, and just having people come in and sit and watch. Yeah, I love you guys. I love what we're doing. I've been really, and I was like, I gotta head home. I just don't know what the topic's going to be, and then when that solution popped up, I was saying, what does it mean to be a man? Because of the conversation we had, I was like, okay, this is going to be perfect. And I think it's been a fantastic show. Before we get out of here, I do want to thank all of our vendors here at BB's Twisted Pop-Up. We are at 4353 Edgewater Drive, 3200. You can come by and buy some food from the food trucks and come and shop with some of our vendors, or come shop with all of our vendors. Pardon me?
You want me to cut them out?
I apologize. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Oh, no. Coming up, my wife's going to go ahead and give a shout out to the vendors, and then we're going to take a short break. And we'll take 2.2 minutes, and I want to let you know that we have a young lady within the house, Miss Hannah Harris. Hannah is 9 years old, and she's an author. So we're going to have a conversation with her, and then hopefully I can convince her mom to come up a little bit after that, and we can share with you her story. And then at 4 o'clock, we got the Woodwall Show. And we got three wonderful performers. We got Ghost, and I just spelled it, so I apologize. It's actually spelled G-H-O-Z-D. And then we have Don Bass, but I apologize. Don Bass is going to be performing, and then we also have Jabari Clay, and Jabari Clay is the composer, singer, songwriter who has written the Juneteenth anthem. Juneteenth coming up this month. We got Father's Day coming up this month. So he's going to be here to perform that anthem for us. So we're going to break up a little bit. So
yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody who was following on live. I know there's a couple hundred people probably on mine, and then everybody on Baruti. And you know, these things that you guys do, you know, once a month or bi-weekly or whatever, it really does make a difference in the community. Whether you're black, white, Asian, female, male, it doesn't matter. This is the kind of stuff that America needs more of. Less disconnect and more connect. You know, so it was an honor to be here, and I want to thank you guys for doing that.
Oh, no problem. We definitely got to have you back. Go to on Facebook, you can find us at the Brotherhood, Manhood, Fatherhood Conversation Series. You can also find us at the Conversation Before the Conversation. You can find Jeremy is Jeremy Jus'Black. He also has his YouTube channel, Jeremy Jus'Black TV. Go there. Jason, your YouTube page, Jason Music. All right. We still get Devin back up, but the Woodwall Show. Please go there, like, subscribe. You'll be surprised at how that really helps and allow us to keep bringing more of this into the community. Mark. That was well said. And people can do that. People do that all the time. I'm going to go. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, right.
I want to thank my parents for making it here. Bill and Kelly, Rebecca, my girlfriend, Barbara, Art, Mike, Burke, everybody made it out, and all the other people who were out here also. And you guys out there that I've been working with, and the girls, y'all keep it up. Y'all are doing amazing. All right.
And we want to say happy birthday to Kelly's birthday's in June.
Kelly, happy birthday, Kelly!
June, that's right. In June. Yes. She got a happy birthday. She will get a dessert. She will get a dessert. She will get a dessert. She will. She gets a treat.